Hello and welcome to another episode of the James Granström podcast, Super Soul Model Series. I'm here with Adam Stansbury, the plant-powered PT. Welcome back to the show, my brother. How are you?
Oh, thanks, dude. It's good to be here. Be back on your podcast, and it's also amazing to be back on it, but in a different country this time.
Yeah, mate. So for the purpose of everybody, you're back in Ibiza, mate. You posted yourself to live there until further notice.
Yeah, exactly. It was a long-time dream of living abroad and working online, coaching the clients online and just being able to travel a bit more and work with it. And what with everything going on in the world at the moment, I felt like now was the time to make the most of that and get out here. It's been amazing. I mean, there's a great co-working space in Ibiza called the Hub.
Yeah, big shout out to the Hub.
Hot desk and a big shout out to the Hub. Yeah. So pleasure to be here, dude.
Wicked. And so today's
I'm loving the backdrop.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you very much. Always trying to keep upgrading and keep improving, the podcast in ways we can, get the message out. And the message today is really unity. That's what we're going to talk about in the show. So I've tried not to really plan this episode, mate, in as much as because, for the purpose of the viewers watching it and listening, Adam and I have been mates for a while, but what we've always found is that when we speak on the phone, we can speak for a good hour, and it always just goes off into an absolute beautiful space, and then it makes me think for days, and then I look forward to connecting with him again. So we have this wonderful it's a give and receive relationship where one person says something and it's really inspiring, and then the other person receives the wisdom. And it just keeps going on and on and on, and it's for guys, it's a really wonderful space to be able to do that. And it's great to have mates who are proper tuned in, tapped in, into life. One with life. And I definitely say that if anyone's listening, you haven't checked out Adam's stuff, please check out Adam. He's a highly tuned human being who's he knows he works and goes one with life, so it's a great, and that's from a physical perspective, emotional perspective, and a spiritual perspective. And so great to have you back on the show, brother. So we're going to talk about unity today, mate. We had this conversation on the phone probably 2 weeks ago, and we were like, wow, man, I think that this should be a podcast. So our conversation was on a Friday. And then I was like, dude, we've got to get you on the podcast. We've got to talk about this. There's so much depth to it. So unity, I looked it up, and then I want to ask you. I looked this up on the dictionary, on the online dictionary, and I thought, oh, okay, this is great. And then I just want to start asking you some questions, Ads, about what unity from your perspective. Because you've got a wonderful take on unity and how it relates to us on a moment-to-moment basis and on a day-to-day basis as human beings, and it can really make the difference when you understand it. From what you were saying in our conversation on our phone call last time about how that could help other people when they begin to understand unity from your perspective, because you've got a wonderful take on it. So in the dictionary it says unity is a state of being united or joined as a whole. So that's what it says. But you've also got a very interesting take on unity, and how that relates to just everyday living and life itself. So what's your take on unity, brother?
Well, I think for me, unity, it's the union, it's the oneness, it's the coming together of all things and everything, or certain things in a specific group. It's the bringing together maybe of two people in a relationship, whatever form of relationship that is. It's the universe, everything within the universe that comes together and creates that one level of that organism. Human beings, I think, it is an element of unity, isn't it? We're one species, so that's what I think. It's the oneness. I think if you had to describe it, it's the oneness of any something specific that's made up of multiple parts, and it's the coming together of all those multiple parts, I think, together.
So it's quite funny, because if you look at life, you look at countries, you look at continents, you look at the world, it's almost as if it's always trying to unify. Like the European Union was is trying to like bring it all together. And if you look at things like Brexit now, it's trying to separate. So things are either trying to unify and separate constantly. When I look at this, and I always just think there's a constant dance between wanting to unify with other people, wanting to unify in our relationships, want to unify with other countries, and then there's also then the contraction. It's expansion and contraction the whole time, and it's almost like a divine dichotomy. You want to become unified, but you can't grow unless you're in separateness.
Yeah, absolutely. Just from observing my own behavior in relationships and groups of people, also from listening to and reading the book Conversations with God, and lots of the really interesting, concepts that come from that. And it's the ever expanding and contracting nature of the universe, and that obviously that is nature, and we are nature, and so we kind of manifest that expanding and contracting all the time in our lives. And it's we're always trying to get to that point of unity, and I think we love it. Like for me specifically, from my own behavior, I love coming together in groups of people, but they also tire me out, and I then need to separate myself from it in order to really enjoy the experience again. Too much of the unification sometimes can burn me out. I think likewise in loving relationships, you want to get closer and closer and closer to that person. That the feeling of love is so powerful that it brings you together, almost to the fact when you're making love and having deep love and sort of sexual union, you're almost trying to become one with that person. But at that point of oneness with that person, you can't stay like that forever, because you no longer see the oneness and you can no longer experience it. So you almost need to then have periods of coming apart and separating yourself, so that you can appreciate the other person or this union that you've got going on. And then you come back again towards that center, towards that unification. And then this process is something that's kind of ever going. And I think as humans, maybe we have trouble seeing the benefit of that separation, or we find it hard to separate ourselves once we become really unified. And I think that over unification sometimes can lead to, in terms of relationships, maybe dysfunction.
And breakdown as well.
And that's not, and breakdown, and not expressing yourselves as individuals in the separate form of who you are, and honoring that. It's really important, because that's ultimately, it's the combination of those two beings that brings together that beautiful union. So it's like you said, it's a divine dichotomy. It's the kind of wanting to be with lots of people, but wanting to be on my own. Like, I want to be with one person, I want to be in love with them, but I also need my space. It's that.
Yeah. I mean, so for instance, one of the things I like to just clarify is that people think that unity or oneness is like love, and I totally believe that coming together is love in action. But there's also love in action when you kind of like you contract as well, because you're giving yourself self-care. You're loving coming into a relationship, and then when you need your own space, you retract, which is to give yourself self-care. Like as a guy, it's one of our natural reactions is in a relationship. If a woman's hurting, she wants us to listen, and that's great. But if she's like nagging or being upset with us, it's our natural response to just retract, because the masculine energy is to want to get out of there if it's too heated or too much. Whereas for the woman, she wants the masculine to stay there. So that's a quite strange dynamic for us as guys, at least in my own experience, having read David Deida and other people, and just like, and men are from Mars, women are from Venus. We're both humans, different genders, but at the same time we've got different dynamics that make us warm. For the women, they want to be heard and listened to and made to feel beautiful, and for the guys, we want to feel appreciated and made to look good and feel good. And that's great when you come into a relationship, but if a woman in a relationship is able to nag the guy, you know, he's going to just like want to get out of there. You know, so that's self-care going. I'm not going to unify now. I'm going to get out of there and separate and give myself, top up my own energy. So it's like a dichotomy. It's like you want to be unified, but you've also got to get out of there to recharge your battery.
Yeah, I mean, I like today. I'm literally right in the middle of this today. We just had a brief chat. I mean, I've just entered into the most incredible, like, loving relationship, really deep romantic love and sort of sexual chemistry with a beautiful woman, and I'm super happy. And we've just spent the last four days or so together, and we've had just some incredibly just deep unifying experiences. But I recognized today, this morning, woke up a bit tired, and I've got this really feeling like I need to be on my own today. I need to do my thing today. I need to honor my need for some space and time, some meditation, to replenish my own energy, but to also then help me to step back from what we've created, and step back from her, so that I can look back on her and look back on what we're creating with even more love and appreciation, because I'm separating myself. But it's really fascinating how so easy it is to get, you know, when you find something that's so beautiful and so wonderful, you want more of it. But sometimes in the having more of it, you're almost doing it a disservice.
That's a beautiful way of describing that. Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking of that. You're doing yourself a disservice by staying too long, you know.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you want to top up into the relationship with the love you give, but don't overstay. Because if you know, at the beginning of a relationship, you want to tap in, enjoy, but if you overstay, you end up getting into kind of like manipulative experiences, which is not unification. It's almost like the addict starts to come in instead.
Yeah, you're burning out that. I mean, so take our conversations, for instance. Like, we have this, we managed to finally attune our diaries, you know, sync them together. We get on the phone, we have conversation that builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, and we have this peak experience of just like a wowness of like discussing philosophy and all of these concepts. But once we're at that point, it's really important that we then go, dude, I love you, amazing conversation, put down the phone. And then at that point, we're able to have the separateness, which enables us to integrate what we've just talked about. It enables us to just to integrate that experience and to contemplate it in our own space and time, and to work out what it means for us as individuals. And I think separation is it's integration. It enables you to integrate the experience into your life. If you're with another person or communicating with another person all the time, you're not having that individual space to integrate it into your life, into your existence. And as much as we want to be with each other and be part of something, a group, a pair, you know, a bonding partnership, we are all in this on our own at some degree, you know, so we have to honor that and take all these experiences, I think, and know how we can apply them to ourselves.
So any guys listening on the show, the one thing that's just come to me is like, okay, so if we swap that dynamic from an intimate relationship between, let's just say, man and woman or whatever, and then you put it into a family dynamic, so you've got mother and father, few kids. You know, the father at some point wants to have like his man cave so he can separate himself, you know, like, you know, I always want to have my, you know, like have my man cave so that I can, you know, that's where I recharge my battery so I can come back better.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that it's that if you don't give yourself the time and space and honor that, and you set boundaries for that, no one gets the best of you. You become frustrated. You know, you're not being that highest vibing version of yourself that you need to be to support your family, to support your children, to be really present with your partner. If you don't do that, if you don't do that, then your energy, you're running on, you know, half full all the time rather than being at that peak. And I think we all feel guilty in relationships and in life sometimes for for honouring that time to ourselves. And it, like you said at the start, it's not selfish, it's self-love. It's recognizing that that's what you need to be able to be the best expression of yourself. Because when I'm tired, I'm the worst version of myself, and
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that version.
Yeah,
So
totally. Aren't we all, man? Aren't we all? And I think that's so. Unity is an opportunity to come together to bring the best aspect of ourselves. And this is quite an interesting point. I've just suddenly had a little download come through. So, so it's like unity allows us to come together, and when we need to retract, it's like the hot and cold. It's like the stone heating up in the desert, and it's contracting at nighttime when it's really, really cold. But the universe is exactly the same. It's always expanding and contracting. But if we don't take care of ourselves on that contraction, what happens is we don't give the best version of ourselves. And for me, unity, when you're really understanding oneness, which is another word for unity, uni means one. When you really understand it, it means you're bringing the best version of yourself, which means the most aligned version of yourself. So you can come into a relationship and you're not really going to unify with any group or individual if you're not aligned in that moment. You're just going to bring that lower aspect part of yourself to the party. So the more aligned you are by having taken great care of yourself, having fed yourself well, having, done things that make you happier, having, set some good rituals and some good boundaries. When you turn up to that party, if you're with a group of individuals or meeting a singular individual, you're bringing that more aligned version of yourself to that engagement. And if, for instance, if you don't do that, what's happening is you're not actually unifying. You're not having that chance to truly connect. You're operating at less than you could.
Yeah, and you're potentially. So you've just sparked off something in me now, and it's sparks flying everywhere.
And I want it to come across to people listening. It's okay to give yourself time if you're in a relationship to get yourself out and recharge your battery. Go and do something fit. Go and relax. Go and recharge your energy. Because if you don't do that, you're constantly living in someone's pockets if you're in a relationship, and that's unhealthy. I've been there, and I know that that's not the answer.
Yeah, and they ultimately don't want to be with someone who's vibrating on a low level, right? I mean, we all ultimately want to be around people who are vibrating on a high level. That it's a better experience for everyone, for each person in that experience. And I think it's the same when you, if you go to a party or you've got an invite to a party and you're just not feeling it, the best thing you can do is just not go and be okay with not going because you're not. Feeling it, rather than showing up to the party, you being on a really low vibe, everyone else being up here, you're not going to enjoy it because you're going to be like, oh, I feel like I'm in a shit state today, and everyone else is above me, and everyone else is going to be like, well, look at him, he's in a shit state. So, it's just no one's getting the best of that vibration, but we make these decisions, I think, a lot of the time based on guilt and feeling like we should do something, that people expect us to do something. And I'm all for people just saying, do you know what, I'm not feeling it. But being honest about that, and then giving themselves time and space to get their vibration back up again.
Mate, I love that. I mean, having healthy, clear boundaries with other people, whether it's, your family or, or your, loved ones or, whoever it may be. If you're really open and clear, I think people really appreciate that and they value yourself. Like today I was in the gym, my dad called me up and, he goes, oh, your mum needs help on the computer. And I was like, sorry, I can't speak to you right now. I'll call you back in 15 once I finish my workout. That was my boundary of saying this is a really important time for me, but I wanted to pick it up in case it was an emergency.
Yeah, sure.
But it wasn't an emergency. It was like, can you help your mother with the computer? And that was on FaceTime. I was like, right, that is not right. That's not what's important right now. It's important that I unify with myself because this gym time is so important to me. And my energy was like really, fast when you go to the gym because I do like high intensity workouts. So, like, as I knew that and I made that decision, and as soon as I'd made that decision and that conversation had ended in a short amount of time, I felt so proud of myself, because maybe the younger version of me would want to stay on that phone and try and help that person out.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
my new software update is completely already running now, which is this new online version of me. I call it the online software update. Has just completely gone. My boundaries are very clear. I'm not people pleasing. I'm doing my best to make sure that I'm honouring myself, so that when I do come to the party, or I do phone you, or I do speak to you, you're going to get the best of me.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm still battling with that. I had a little battle with it yesterday, the whole people pleasing side of things, and but I'm aware of it, and that's kind of something that I'm working on. And then just going back to that conversation you had on the phone, it's like, if you were to stay on the line, you would be feeling frustrated. You'd be probably a little bit angry with yourself that you're allowing this to happen, and that would have then been reflected in the energy you're giving back. You probably would have been half listening, going, when's this going to end? I need to get back on with my workout. So you wouldn't have even been present for that conversation. So they wouldn't have got what they needed out of that conversation, and you'd have just been turned into a more negative state. So by you, like you said, setting that boundary, first of all, just making sure it wasn't an emergency, saying, I'll speak to you in X amount of time. It was enabling everyone then to get the best version of Jimbo once you finished the workout, and for you to enjoy your workout.
Now get this is the real funny bit though, Ads. The real funny bit was, as I finished my workout, I was thrilled. I had an extremely good workout. I was sweating, I did everything. I gave everything I could. I was really present in my workout. I left, had a shower, spoke to my folks, and my dad goes, "Oh, just to let you know, it's all sorted." So it just reminded me that when you really honour yourself, when you set those clear boundaries, you're really unifying with yourself, and you're aligning with yourself. You're being present in your activity, and then everyone will benefit, and that's, everyone's benefiting energetically. I didn't even need to solve that, and I felt proud that they'd sorted it out themselves without needing my help. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, amazing. Like you gave them the space to work it out for themselves, which empowered them to do that. And that's also funny, I think, in terms of human behavior, is it's like we rather than sometimes thinking for ourselves and using our brain, we're so now used to using Google or maybe phoning someone up to get an instant result or an instant answer, rather than actually having to think for ourselves and work stuff out. But if Google's taken away, if that instant phone conversation is taken away, or that kind of that knowledge is taken away from you, you are forced into a position of, well, you either wait and hang on, or you just get on and deal with it yourself. And so I think that's what a beautiful little bonus to come out of that situation.
And there's quite another one that was quite interesting, bit different scenario. So that's like the positive side, and then I want to share with people like I kind of call it a negative side, because you're trying to fill a void, and this is me. So I think probably about a week or so ago, I was trying to figure something out. I don't know what it was. It was something technical, and I was trying to phone you actually, mate. And I thought, oh, Ads will know this. But I was feeling like I was in a void, which meant that I wasn't in alignment. So I was making that call out of alignment, which means I wasn't unified anyway, and it means I wasn't feeling great. But I was just trying to get an answer from someone because I couldn't figure it out myself. So what I tried to phone a few people. You were one of them. You didn't pick up, and I'm like, yeah, well, that I understand that. This is energy now. So when you understand energy, you realise that you still try to go back to these old habits, to these old software programs that we are run by, to try and feel better, because we hope that some person will make us feel better. But if you don't feel great, you're never going to get someone to make you feel better. That just won't work. So it's like you're trying to unify, but you're not even online, you're offline. So you can't unify when you're offline. And I mean that in terms of your mood. So that's why spending a little time in the park gets you online. Listening to good music can get you online. Meditating for sure can get you online. And you know, maybe taking a little nap, or you know, spending time in nature will get you online. All of those things. And funnily enough, I just thought I'll go for a little bike ride. And then, you know, the idea came to me what I needed to do. And I'm like, didn't need to try and phone 5 people, you know, and that kind of strange, addictive, I need that person to help me type of vibe. Because I was offline the whole time, so I'm never going to be able to unify or uplift another person or receive the answer that I'm really looking for from this state of being, which is clearly offline, man. That's what I call it.
And you've got so much going on in your head. You've got so many little distractions going on. You like I did a bit of I worked as a computer programmer years ago, and I used to find time and time again I would be sat looking at my computer screen, trying to figure out a solution to the problem I was trying to, you know, work through. And you could be sat there for an hour and a half, like, and just not getting anywhere. And I would turn around to one of my colleagues and start talking through what I was doing, and just by voicing what I was trying to achieve, I worked the problem out before they'd even had a chance to answer it.
And
You know?
you're like, I'll just sort it
So
out.
it's almost, and so it's either, you know, voicing, being able to express something and get it out in the open, which enables you to see it. It's almost like putting it up in front of you on a screen so that you can see it clearer, or taking it like you did, taking yourself off into nature. That gives you space. It gives you space from the problem you're trying to solve, and in that space is where the wisdom like comes in. It's it's kind of like an energy vacuum, isn't it? You know, or it's you have to have an empty cup in order to fill it back up again. So you almost create that space, which is emptying of the cup, to allow the wisdom to come in. And I think Eckhart Tolle is such a wonderful example of this. When he's on stage and he's doing his lectures, he just will start his lecture, right, and he'll just sit there, right, and not say anything for like a couple of minutes. And you're like, what's going on? And he's not rushing to try and find the words. He's not in a hurry to work out what he's got to say. He's just allowing it to come through him when it's goddamn good and ready, you know, and there's no rushing and pressure. And every time it's pure truth and wisdom that comes through.
Yeah, that's a lovely, beautiful way of saying it. It's also like he's like fine tuning himself to receive that wisdom, you know, prior. And silence for some people, they find that very, very uncomfortable. But really, you actually unify in the silence, you know. You unify in silence, because when 2 people are gathered together and they're able to be quiet with one another, there's this real deep sense of appreciation for that stillness that each person can bring, you know. I think just before you left, dude, you went to Ibiza. I think we hung out, and I can't remember, we were like just chilling out. I think we'd got a bite to eat or whatever, and we were just sitting under a full moon or something, just saying, mate, good luck before you go. You know, just trying to give you some blessings and, you know, share some good vibes and things like that before you'd started this new chapter. And I remember we just sat there and we didn't need to talk. And this is 2 mates, do you know what I mean? 2 mates. And it's quite unusual, because this is kind of like what I call a new earth. This is a new evolution of human consciousness, you know. You can be like really good mates and still make each other laugh and, you know, be present for one another, but also not have to say anything. And that is really quite unusual, because, you know, it's almost as if the mind is constantly wanting to chat, you know, always. It feels as though it needs to chat, and because it needs to chat, it's almost as if you're trying to allow the ego to do something because it's fearful of silence. But if you can actually make peace with silence, then you're not in the ego anymore. What you are is you're allowing the fullness of each human being to turn up. And that is incredibly unifying. Now, that's very deep, but I mean, I hope you can understand that.
100%. I'm really trying, as a man, part of our problem, and I'm sure you'll agree, and so will other men out there, is our problem is that we're trying to find solutions. And especially when we're talking to a female, they don't necessarily want solutions. They just want to be heard. I'm really conscious of that being something that I'm now trying to work on more, and just allowing that space of it's not a discussion, it's not a solution-based conversation, it's someone wanting just to share. And there doesn't need to be a solution to it. There doesn't need to be a wonderful idea that comes out of how to fix it. It's just allowing that space. So that's something I'm really conscious of, especially now living with two girls as well, and also in a relationship. So I'm like in the feminine at the moment, really trying to kind of learn and fine tune my communication. And I'm finding that really fascinating. And I think just going back to what you were saying, I think we are in a society that has problems with silence or spaciousness, and we're always looking to fill a space with something else rather than just having that space. And I think this is, going off on a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's affecting health. It's just sort of creating more stress because we're not allowing spaciousness for us to flow into, and we're adding more things on top of our daily schedules. But technology is supposed to have given us more time to be human, but all it's done is allowed us to pack more stuff into a schedule. And so I think people, we all get our phones out now. We've all got these computers in our pockets, and when there's a moment of peace or spaciousness, the tendency is to get the phone out and start distracting yourself from that spacious presence. And Eckhart Tolle again talks about it a lot, in like, what is boredom? Boredom is just you not being comfortable with being quiet and still and peaceful. Boredom is comes from a place of needing to fill it with something, rather than just enjoying being purely present in that moment of spaciousness. And it's from, I think, having more of those moments. Like, you're been meditating for years, and I know you all attest to this as well. That's what meditation gives you. It gives you the space, and in the space is where that wisdom comes from, and that recharge, that separation, that enables all the other wonderful magic to come into for you to express.
Man, it's beautifully said, man. Beautifully said. I have chats with Adam like probably once a week, and it's like, oh yeah. And then something will come out, eventually.
So, it's like our game of tennis, mate, isn't it? We're like, the ball is our conversation, and we just knock it backward and forward to each other.
It's like spiritual tennis. I love tennis, and I love playing tennis with you as well, because whether you're down on you're not playing that well in tennis, you can really you can find this analogy with tennis and life quite easily. You can be down on your luck, but can you remain present to play the next ball and play it as best you possibly can? And that's a bit like life as well. Sometimes you feel like you're down a point or down 2 points, and you're kind of chasing your tail. But if you think too far forward, you're only going to muck up the next point. You've got to be as present as you can and as still as you can to just play this point, the next point that you're playing, as best as you possibly can. And that's a bit like life. You're like, today's all I've got right now. I can't think too far forward. Yes, I can plan as much as possible. I've just had another download of something I just want to say in a second, but but you just got to be as still as you possibly can in your mind when you're playing the next point, because that's going to make you play your next shot as well as you can. So it's this old cliche of be in the moment, but it's really being in the moment, being as still as you possibly can in your mind in the moment, and just allow your shot to be the best shot you can possibly be, which today might mean you've got screaming kids and you need to get them to school, and then you've got to make the dinner, but just do it the best you can. Don't think too crazy, too far forward. Just do the next activity the best you can.
Yeah, absolutely, and take the pressure off. And it's the pressure that you put on yourself that creates a rubbish shot that spins the ball off in a random direction. Yeah. We talk a lot, don't we, during our tennis games, and we're like, how can you, like, tennis is just this amazing tool to show you how to either respond or react. or are you responding or are you reacting? So it's just like, how can I be suddenly 5-0 up on top of my game? I hit a couple of bad shots, I start getting into my head, and suddenly the universe turns upside down, and you're now 5-all, and you're like, how did that even happen? Like, what changed? I'm still using the same racket, I'm still using the same balls, I'm on the same court, I'm in the same body, but something changed up here that affected how I responded to that situation. And I think sports, certainly racket sports where you can play one-on-one, I think they're so powerful at teaching you, giving you a kind of a real life safe environment to practice and be aware of that. And certainly our games have really helped me try and temper down my, you start losing it a little bit, you're like, wow, I can feel my whole inner chemistry is changing. And then that gives you so much respect for like the masters of the game, like the Federers and the Nadals and the Djokovic's, right?
100%.
Just just the level of pure presence and emotional stability that these guys have to go through maybe being a few match points down and then being able to come back and win the game.
Man, I've got so much appreciation for that, because when I was growing up playing tennis, I'd won a few tournaments and stuff, and I was good at playing tennis growing up. But my attitude sucks, man. I used to throw my racket, I was really bad, like really bad. I would really hate to see that version of myself right now. And I remember throwing my racket over and over and over again, bang out of order. And then, I put the racket down when I went to university, and, went to put the racket down when I went to university, and I didn't pick it up probably, mate, for about 10 years.
Right, wow.
I just got into partying, and I was like, I don't want to play tennis. Didn't want to play tennis. I was like over it. And then I remember like going away somewhere, and someone goes, "Oh, do you want to play tennis?" And I was like, "Oh, I'd like to pick up the racket again." And it was amazing because I fell in love with it again, because my mindset had now been in a different place, because I began to meditate. So that old reaction mind, which was very ununifying, so to speak, that reaction mind, I've now had a new software update from meditating, really, which allowed to give me the stillness of mind, but the appreciation of the game. Now, it didn't mean that my game improved significantly straight away, because I hadn't been practicing for years. But what it did mean is that I saw the game very differently than how I used to see it. And so on those pressure moments, even moments when I've played you, I'd been down and I still managed to hold my serve and win a set, or you were up, and then I managed to come back into the game and win it. And I know you've done that too, but that's as satisfying as anything, when you feel like you're down and you still manage to turn it around, because you're able to unify, maybe still your mind, have this sense of presence. And, as Eckhart Tolle is saying, is just use the power of now and make the best shot you possibly can be your next shot. So everything else goes out the window, except for that principle.
Yeah, and that moment, and that one shot, and it's just like, how do you get better at playing it shot by shot, rather than taking what happened in the last shot into your next shot? Or point, what happened in the last point, try not to bring that into try and bring it in, I guess, if it's a positive outcome, but try not to bring that, if it was a negative outcome from that point, into your next shot. And I think that's a beautiful concept to learn in life about relationships, I think, as well, and or any past experiences. And it's like, learn to create a new path, make a new choice, and try and leave behind what's happened in the past. But what's happened in the past it doesn't have to shape your future. It doesn't have to be reflected in your future choice. It's there for you. The future is, you're back in this new moment. So you're in a new moment, and every time you have a new moment, it's a new opportunity for a new choice.
Beautiful, mate. Beautiful. I was just thinking that whenever you feel a bit low on energy and you know, it feels like you're wanting to contract, that's really important that you give yourself that self-care. You know, I'm sort of like going back in, you know, where we began a little bit.
Yeah.
And I thought to
Yeah,
myself,
sure.
and I thought to myself, well, you know, that when you're stilling your mind, you're giving yourself that self-care so that the next time you turn up, you're going to have that better version of yourself because you've quieted the mind a little bit. And I was just thinking that when you add value to other people's lives and you're helping other people, that is recharging your battery as well as theirs. But it's best always to do that from when you have a sense of energy. Like, for instance, if I was interrupted by my folks earlier in our conversation by that phone call, that would not be the right time to assist. Does that make sense? So there's a time to assist and there's a time not to assist. But only you can really tell that based on the amount of energy that you have to give or not. Because life is this wonderful dance, isn't it? It's the dance between what I call being online, which is feeling aligned and unifying, and being offline, which is like, I'm in a rotten mood. It's probably best I don't speak to anyone until my mood has improved. And maybe I've had a little sleep or meditated or listened to some music or walked in nature a bit and topped myself up. So it's kind of like it's a real personal awareness one has to begin to develop to understand these subtle differences between being online and offline, essentially, mate.
Checking, yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of my biggest lessons really at the moment. Just checking in with yourself and knowing what's going on inside of you, and then just being completely okay with being not okay, and knowing what you need, and going and getting what you need to raise your vibration back up, whatever that is. Like you said, walk in nature, 20-minute meditation, you know, a gym workout, and it's, you know, that comes from the awareness, right? And it's that's the key. And I think practices like meditation as a regular practice just really helps you to become more in tune with your internal environment.
Mate, Ads, when I listen to you, I still go, you've got a level of presence, you've got an understanding of, you know, really grasping like wisdom, you know, you live it, you walk your talk, you know. I'm blessed to have you as a friend.
Thanks,
but at the same time, I'm like, you know, there's a real genius that, you know, that I love about you, that you bring to the table, and I'm thrilled to always converse with you because I just never know what's going to come out. I know you've moved to a bit.
Likewise with you, bro. You know, bromance, and it's the same. It's wonderful to be able to express all this stuff with a close male friend who's of the same way of thinking, but also throws a different perspective in everything that I'm saying back. And you've got a many years head start on all of this to myself, and so it's a pleasure to, you know, it's always fun when we chat and I'm like, oh, have you read this book? And you're like, yeah, fucking 6 years ago. I'm like, oh, just getting to the party, you know. You and appreciate you, Jay, you do.
Yeah, likewise, mate, likewise. All I'm going to say is, you know, all of this kind of awareness and this understanding of unity and the separatedness and just like having this presence of mind is really just something that you will gather as you just experience in life, and just try to give yourself more self-care activities, because as a guy it's quite easy to go, I just want to be strong, but there's real power in silence, there's real power in recharging your own battery, there's real power spending time in solitude by yourself, because you come back with so much wisdom, so much personal headspace and clarity, that you're able to add so much value to other people afterwards. I know you've moved out to Ibiza, brother, and one of the things that I know is you wanted to get yourself out of that headspace into the island, which is a magnetic island, extremely beautiful. How's that been for you since you've moved there in the last few weeks?
Yeah, amazing. I mean, this is just the start of week 4, so I'm still very much kind of coming down to land. I'm still pinching myself, you know, it's been a long-term dream. It's like, you know, it's it was about 11 years ago that I read Tim Ferriss's The 4 Hour Work Week, which really made me start thinking about the possibility of having a more nomadic work, work nomadic lifestyle. And so it's been an amazing couple of weeks of just going, oh wow, I'm at a point in my life of the culmination of many years of where I wanted to get to, and I'm kind of here. So I'm trying to kind of at the same time, I'm trying to be really present and grateful for this moment and immerse myself in it and be appreciative for it. But whilst also knowing that the next evolution is coming. And so I think sometimes there's a tendency just to jump from one thing to the other and not honour what's happened. And so I'm really just trying to let go of the reins a little bit at the moment, really honour and appreciate what's happened. But also very much now also looking forward to and excited into where the new evolution of what I'm doing is going over the next few months while I'm here as well and beyond. Yeah, so it's been special.
Yeah, nice, man. So if people wanted to contact you now, just as we sort of begin to wrap up, you're still doing the plant-powered PT sessions, and I understand you're doing Reiki now, or from remote Reiki.
Yeah, so distant healing, distant Reiki. What's happened is I'm a Reiki level 2, and one of the reasons I was coming to Ibiza was to do my Reiki masters with good friend of mine who's actually now my girlfriend, which is another cosmic story to have another time. But I'm obviously offering online coaching and personal training, plant-based nutrition coaching, and now I'm kind of incorporating the distant Reiki in there as a way and means of helping to unleash or unlock kind of blockages that people may have in terms of realizing their full potential and optimizing that on on whatever level that block may exist in either in the physical body, the emotional, mental, or sort of spiritual. And that's
it's like you're being a physical coach for the plant-powered PT, people getting themselves in great shape, giving them the nutrition, and then from a emotional and spiritual perspective, you're offering the Reiki as well, which is another dynamic to health and wellness. So it's I've never heard anyone else do that, man. So I think that you're a pioneer in that aspect, and I really appreciate that, and I think it's cool.
Thanks,
and if people wanted to find you, I'll put all the links below, but just for the purpose of the podcast and anyone listening, where can they find you? Where can they connect with you?
Website is theplantpoweredpt.com, and Instagram is probably where I hang out the most on social media. And that's the Plant Powered PT. So yeah, come and say hi.
Come and say hi. I mean, Ads is always putting some great quotes up there. He's always putting some wonderful insights. So go check him out on Instagram. He hangs out there a lot, and always something inspiring for you to check out. Well, Adam's our superstar model this week, mate. Thank you so much, brother, for coming back on the show. And guys, as always,
thanks, brother.
Mate, joy having you on the show. And as always, if you want to contact me, you can hit me up on Instagram or below here on YouTube or anywhere. DM me at James Granström. Always happy to answer any of your questions on meditation or spirituality, health and wellness. Got a plethora of knowledge and experience, and I want to save you time and grief so we can give you the quick updates to be able to help you on your path so you can enjoy greater health, happiness, well-being, and of course inner peace. Thanks guys for tuning in today on the James Granström podcast, and as always, big love to Adam Stansbury, who's aka the Shamansbury, and
adios from Ibiza.
That's an adios from him, and that's an adios from me, and I wish you green lights all the way.